very bad credit score will actually affect their partners?
That's a very interesting question. We've had a few instances where people get married.
Hey guys, welcome to our brand new channel. This is our first video of a series on how to buy a property. So stay tuned to find out more. Here we are today with Stephan Smit from Bond Gallery Synergy, all the way here from the Garden Route. He is actually the licensee holder for the Garden Route branch. So welcome, Stefan. Welcome today here to us. Stefan is going to talk to us about what is a bond originator. But before we get to all the questions, Stefan, please introduce yourself. Tell us a bit more about yourself.
Thanks, Jeandre. Thanks for having me here, and it's just an awesome experience to be on the camera, have me in studio on your new YouTube channel.
Oh, thank you, Ian.
Thank you so much. But and I'm stoked to tell you guys about what a bond originator is, what we do, and the service that we give to the public.
And you were a property agent yourself. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, sure. I started at ERA. I've been with Bond Gallery for the last 8 years. So I started in 2017. I was at ERA and I was there for 1 year and I won Rookie of the Year with them. So,
well done.
Yeah, so and then I decided to move this way. We had an opportunity and I was given a license, or I was offered a license, and here we are.
Well.
And it's been 8 years.
Well, welcome to the Southern Cape area. So
Thank
glad
you so
to have
much.
you here.
Thanks so much.
Guys, so our first question that we've got, and we find that a lot in the industry, is a lot of people would like to know what is a bond originator and what does a bond originator actually do?
Okay, so thank you, Jeandre. A bond originator is someone that goes to the banks and for our clients to get the best interest rate and to make sure that we get the best deal for them, basically. Some of the banks offer 50% off on the bond attorneys, up to 50% off, and also preferential rates. That's what we basically do, is go to the banks for the clients and make sure we get the best deal for them.
Okay, so and you don't just work with one specific bank, you actually work with all the banks,
yes,
if I'm correct.
Yes. So we definitely go to all the banks, all the major banks. We go to ABSA, Standard Bank, Nedbank, FNB, and then also to Sentinel Homes, Investec, and then also there's a few other niche banks that we also go through, or we can submit to, and so those are the major banks that we go to.
So tell us, why use a bond originator instead of just going to your own bank?
The thing with the bond originator is if you go to your own bank, there's a 32% chance that your own bank will decline your application where another bank will approve your application. So usually when we go to the banks, we can also look at getting a better rate, and once we get a better rate, we go back to your bank if you prefer to stay with your own bank, and then we try and appeal for a better rate.
So you actually negotiate basically on behalf of the client with all the other banks, and then the client has the option to still decide with which bank he prefers to deal with.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, so before we actually continue, let's quickly get a word from our sponsor today, who is Bond Gallery Synergy.
Subscribe now.
Why use a bond originator? For almost 2 decades, bond originators have been approaching the banks on homebuyers' behalf, improving your chances of bond approval and great interest rates. A bond originator will search for the deal that meets your needs, with less paperwork and best advice from our home loan specialists. Bond Gallery will do a proper financial and credit assessment to ensure the homebuyer's application meets the criteria from the participating banks. The best thing a prospective homebuyer can do is find a friendly, experienced bond originator to assist them through the process. Bond originators represent the homebuyer in obtaining the best and suitable mortgage loan from any of the participating banks. Property professionals, developers, clients, and other lead providers suggest a bond originator like Bond Gallery to assist homebuyers. Use Bond Gallery today at no cost. Better convenience, expertise, and speed. Find your dream home, and Bond Gallery will help you with the loan.
Welcome back, guys. Okay, Stefan, so please explain to us pre-approval. We do get that a lot from our clients. They ask a question, what is a pre-approval and why is it good for you to get a pre-approval before actually starting to look for property?
It's a very good question, and I always stress to all agents and all my clients, because usually people don't know what they qualify for a bond. So, and also some people try and do a pre-qualification online. It used to be that the banks would offer a pre-approved bond. They don't do that anymore, so we do a pre-qualification. So what we do is then we ask the client to send through their information, like a Property Act form, the ID copy. In the instance where someone is employed with a salary, we ask for the last 3 months payslips and bank statements. If they earn commission, the last 6 months of the payslips and the bank statements. What we then do is that we look at the income and expenses as if they would go to the bank, and the bank do their assessment, and with that we issue a certificate with the amount that you qualify for, and that it's always good to do and to know that you are pre-qualified. And I must say, I've had instances before where clients do go and sign an offer to purchase, and there's a few people that would want to buy that property. And in a case where they are pre-qualified with us, the seller is more inclined to go for that option where our client is pre-approved instead of a client that's not pre-approved. So it's very, very important to get your pre-qualification done. And then at least you know when you go with your certificate, you go to an estate agent to go and look for a property, you know exactly what property you're looking for and what price range. That's also very important. I've had situations where clients look at a property and they lose their whole heart on it, but then the affordability is not in place. So it's very, very important to look at doing a pre-qualification.
Okay, so that's great. So they can use actually the certificate as a guideline to see what their affordability is, what properties they can actually go and look for into the market. And then also it actually helps to not waste time with the agent, try and get properties which they will never actually be able to qualify for as well. So let's jump into the next question that we do get is, what is the criteria for qualification? What needs to be in place? What is the stuff that you guys need to look at to try and get approval for the bank?
Firstly, we have to look importantly at the client's credit score. So we look at that, and then after that, we would ask the client what under which criteria they fall. Is it self-employed, employed? Are they pension earners? We can look at pension earners as well. And then also clients working abroad, South Africans working abroad. So if we look at a salary client, we would ask them for a Property Act form that they need to complete from Bond Gallery. That's also very important. And then also an ID copy. We ask for the last 3 months bank statements, the last 3 months pay slips. If they earn commission, then we ask for the last 6 months of both. If we're looking at a client that's self-employed, we would look at ID copy. They would want an income confirmation letter from the accountant or auditor, last 2 years financials, audited financials, and then also management accounts not older than the last 2 months. We'll also need income confirmation letter from the accountant, and then the last 6 months bank statements for the client, personal, last 6 months for the business, and then the CK registration documents. For the other clients, I've got the whole list. I can send it through to you if you want to share it with the clients or our client base that will be watching this video. I can send it through, but there's a criteria for each different client.
So what we can do actually is we will actually link it down below for you guys to that info. So thanks, Stefan, for that. And just another regard is Poppy Act now, the new Poppy Act. Act has to be done with the compliance side with each transaction, if I'm correct now, with the South African Act now. So just quickly take us through the Poppy Act. What is the Poppy Act? Why you need that info? Why you need to do it with a transaction?
With every transaction, it's actually basically to protect clients' data, and so that it's not shared throughout the whole of South Africa or the whole world. For instance, like we handle lots of sensitive information, like people's ID copies, their bank statements. So those are things that people do fraud with. So, and that's why it's important for us to have their permission to be able to accept their documents, and also most importantly to send it on to the banks, because we are sharing their information with the bank.
Oh, so the Poppy Act is just to regulate the sharing of info to help protect the client with their personal information as well. So Stefan, a question that we do get regularly as well is regarding people building or looking to build. So talk us a bit more about the bond registration or how a bond works for a vacant land or someone looking to actually build.
Thank you, Jeandre. With building loans, how it works is if the client do just want to buy vacant land, the banks do not offer 100%. They just give a 60% bond with a 40% deposit. In the case where a client does a plot and plan application, we can look up to 100%. Some of the banks do look at giving a deposit, about 15%, in a case or an instance where a client then needs to put down a deposit. They will need to put down the deposit on the land portion. If we do the application with the plot and plan, and the bank approves the loan, the plan portion or the building contract portion, the bank will keep the contract amount in retention, and they will only pay out for work that was done by the builder. And then the bank's assessor will come out, they will assess the property, they will look at the percentage that was built, and then they will pay out according to that percentage.
Okay, so going on to our next question, and it's a question we do get a lot as well, is when you've actually paid off your bond, what is actually the next steps? What actually happens to the bond between the purchaser and the bank as well? What happens when you've actually paid off your last debit order or from a bond? What would be the next steps?
Okay, the next steps would be to contact the bank and to advise them that you have paid off your home loan, and they will then offer the service of a bond attorney to basically cancel your bond. There is a fee involved. It's between 5,000 and 6,000 rand to get your bond cancelled. But I've got a few clients that usually keep their bonds open. They would keep 2,000 to 5,000 rand that they still owe on the bond. And that's always nice to know that if you ever need any money to buy a second property, then we can do an application on your current property to get a bond for them. And then they can buy that other property cash, basically. So the bank will then register the bond, and they will pay out the cash to the client, and the client can then purchase this second property that's then not bonded.
And then I've heard that if you are looking to sell, that you need to give notice to a bank. Just take us through the steps if you are looking to sell your property but you've still got the bond on the property. What are the steps that you need to do as you are looking to sell your property?
Thanks, Jeandre. With your question about the 90-day notice, I would always recommend that you first phone your bank once you put your property on the market to give them the 90-day notice. The 90-day notice is very important, otherwise there will be fees that you need to pay, interest, that penalty interest, if you do not give them enough notice that your property is being sold. I've had instances where clients have given the 90-day notice, but they've sold their property within like the first 30 days, you will then have a penalty for the rest of the remaining days. But it also just depends on the bank. You can always contact the bank and ask them what the amount will be that they need to pay in penalties. You can also extend the 90 days. Some of the banks will also phone you and ask you if you would like to extend the 90 days if your property was sold or close to being sold. So it's very important to note that to give that the 90-day notice is a very important thing.
Okay, so as a first-time homeowner, I've actually learned that you've got something called FLIS that you can actually, it's a grant from the government that you can actually get. Can you explain it to us just a bit more in detail of what FLIS is? And we will have the details down below as well of if you fall in this category as well and you can apply for FLIS, is who to contact as well for the FLIS grant. But please, if you can just give us a quick explanation of what FLIS is.
Thanks, Jeandre. Yes, on FLIS, that's, as you said, it's a government initiative, basically, to help and assist people out there that do not earn a big salary, but also would love to own their own property. So what happens is that the criteria usually is, and it's also quite important, is that you are a single parent and you've got a dependent. That's very important, something that they do look at. We also need to go through the whole process at the bank to get the approval first before we can proceed with the application. So we also usually need that they have the proof of the signed quotation, and then also the lawyers need to give the account of the work that they've done, and then that all gets sent through to the Human Settlement Department, and with approval they will pay out a certain amount. The thing that the amount that they begin with is 3,501 Rand. So it's very important to start with 3,501 Rand. I had a client previously that just earned 3,500, and we had to ask for a 1 Rand increase, otherwise they wouldn't have looked at the client. So
wow, okay.
3,501 Rand up to I think it's 23,000 is the cutoff. So and depending on that scale, you, as you said, you'll link it at the bottom. That is the amount that you'll get. So that's also very important to know, is that it's joint income. So it's not just one person's income, it's joint income for the whole household.
Okay guys, so we will link it down below, the link to the FLIS grant. So if you do think you can apply for it, go have a look on the system, go have a look on their website. If you do apply, they will have the whole criteria of what they need and what the criteria is, salary wise, income, and also what type of scenarios you can. Because I've read up before as well that it's not just on a new property that you're currently buying, but it is on a new property that you've already bought as well. There are certain criteria, so go have a look if you do think that you might be able to apply. So a question we do get a lot from clients as well is they ask us actually if their bad credit score will actually affect their partner. So what advice do you have for clients regarding that matter?
That's a very interesting question. We've had a few instances where people get married and then they get married in community of property. That's also something very important. The thing is, if you get married in community of property, it means that everything is shared. So you can also inherit your partner's debt. And so it's very important that people get married out of community of property. And also, if you have a bad credit score and you do apply with a partner, it makes it very difficult because the banks look at the way you handle your credit profile. So if your score is below 610, then the banks will decline the application. Where we have a joint application and the one has a better score, the one client, and the other one doesn't, we usually try and add the client with the higher score as the main applicant, and then the person or the client with a lower score as the second or the co-applicant. The thing that the banks can do is they can still inquire on the reason for the lower credit score, but in instances like that, sometimes most probably the client with the higher credit score will assist the second or the co-applicant with their score. So that's how the banks look at it. So it's actually something to really look at if you want to buy a property with someone else or a partner, is just to make sure that their credit score is correct or above average, and then that also helps with the interest rate. The banks look at your credit score. There's also something that they call an internal score. That the information that they get for an internal score is things like if you had a credit card, if you didn't pay the credit card in time, if you had a previous home loan, and if you paid that in time, anything that was linked to the bank, to a specific bank, can increase or decrease your credit score. So it's very, very important to look at that, is to make sure that you have a proper credit score. But in instances, as I said, if there's a second applicant, their score's a little lower, then the banks will still look at it. It just depends on what the reason is also for that lower score. If it's something that I've had instances where, say for instance, a client's been with MTN or Vodacom, and they had a billing issue, then obviously it will show on your credit score. But we can usually motivate it as well with proof that it was paid and the reason why it wasn't paid. But it's very important to make sure your credit score stays above average, and pay your debt in time.
Okay, so Stefan, so with a first-time home buyer, what advice would you be able to give him for a bond? Because I know with purchasing a vehicle, your parents can actually sign under your name or as a co-signer for to take the surety off. Is there anything like that with property and bond registration, that you can do anything like that as well?
Thanks, Jeandre, for that question. That's also a very valid question. There's definitely a lot of products or a lot of perks, rather, for clients that are first-time home buyers. Like the banks will offer 105 to 100% or 108% bond. They will also give them up to 50% off on their bond attorney fees, and we're also looking at preferential rates for the clients as well. So there's definitely perks at being a first-time home buyer. The other question that you had was that if a client can sign surety for each other or their parents. In the case with the bond, the clients will not be able to have their client or their parents sign surety for them. The only people that can, or clients that can sign surety for each other, is people that are married out of community of property and your partners, basically. That they are the only people the banks will allow to sign surety for each other. And in a case where someone signs surety for their partner, the banks will look at both their profiles, their credit profiles. They'll look at their income and also their bank statements, and according to that they will offer them a bond. And then when it comes to the registration of the bond will only be registered on the client's name that's on the offer to purchase, and it will register as the co-applicant being the surety for the client.
So Stefan, I want to thank you for spending the time with us today, and we will definitely see you more on the channel. For those who was actually wondering what this is right here next to us, you actually got the award for the top licensee for 2023 to 2024. If that's correct, if I'm understanding correctly, you got the top licensee award.
Yes, nationally I got the top licensee. It's the 4th year running, so I'm very fortunate with all our clients, all the love and support from all our clients in the area. So I'm very, very blessed and very fortunate to be the licensee of the year nationally for the last 4 years.
So for those who want to actually make contact with you as well, we will leave your details here on the site as well for everyone to make contact with you. So if you want to find out why Stefan is the top licensee, give him a call and find out. But Stefan, once again, thank you very much for today. We appreciate it.
Home loans are simpler than you've ever believed. On Gallery, we're here for you. We make home loans simple and true. We go to all banks, get the best rate. Your dream home is closer, no need to wait. No